Hey there, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training. Of course, as always and forever, until the complete eradication of time and space and matter. Like and subscribe to the Autism Fitness or Autism Fitness workouts, or I forget all the names of my social media channels, but you're watching it right now, so hit the like button, subscribe so that you don't miss any of the content that can make you a better coach for your autism and neurodivergent athletes. And let's get into this week's topic. So this week's topic is the 4 assumptions, or if they're not assumptions, then maybe misconceptions or complete misguidedness around fitness for the autism and neurodivergent population. And of course, a lot of this extends to the neurotypical population as well. But of course, because our mission is to bring the best possible fitness and adapted PE programs to the ASD and neurodivergent population, that's the topic that we're staying on right now. I keep saying we. That's the topic that I'm staying on right now, but you're a part of this too. So, number 1 is that all exercises are created equal and that it doesn't matter and that we can just throw a bunch of exercises together and call it a program because exercise is exercise. And that is simply not the case. Not all exercises are equal, and it very much depends on how we are implementing them and what the goal is. One of the things that we talk about often in the Autism Fitness Certification and in our training programs is that there needs to be a goal towards a training effect. This means that the exercise has the particular benefit that it is supposed to have. If we think about the exercise as a tool, something that serves to get a job done, we have to incorporate exercises that make sense to meet that goal. So just choosing exercises randomly and saying this is a fitness program, or oftentimes just as bad saying, oh, we have this piece of equipment, we have this ball, or we have this band, or we have this thing, let's do a workout with this. Great, what's the goal? So in one of the most egregious examples, knocking around a balloon is not going to build strength ever. It's not going to do this. Might be fun for a little bit, but it's not going to serve that purpose. And on that note as well, and I think I've ignited my tangent mode here, is that we want to have specific exercises that are highly likely to create a specific outcome. Mainly in our autism fitness programming, we use strength exercises because they are going to elicit a particular response or result in a particular response physiologically in which the body adapts in a way that's conducive to being more safe and effective in daily life. So not exercises or all physical activities are equal, and they have some specific use, particularly when they are programmed well, which is something that I'm going to get into. And the foundation of effective training is understanding what each exercise is supposed to do and how it is supposed to be performed, and how much volume, meaning sets and repetitions, is needed in order to achieve that goal. So mistake or assumption number 1 is that exercise is just exercise and anything and everything is all good. That is not the case. We have to understand what exercises are, what different exercises do, and how to measure those outcomes. Number 2, and this comes from questions that I've received for the last 15, 20 years, however long my career is now at this point, is can you give me a program for, fill in the age usually, and then, level 1, level 2, level 3, individual. Can you give me a program for a 15-year-old nonverbal individual? Very common question that I get. And the answer is certainly could, but is it actually going to be effective? A program is just a bunch of exercises written down on paper or on a screen or on a phone or whatever modality that it might be. All right. But a program is not going to be enough, because now I'm going to start doing the annoying thing and asking all these pesky little questions that actually make the difference. So the question is, has the individual ever had any type of training or exercise program? What is their history of movement? Do they have any compensatory movements that we need to be considerate of? I can list all of the exercises that we commonly use in our program, so it's not a secret. Squat, press, pull, carry, hinge, locomote, right? Locomotion, getting from one point to another. Non-secretive about that. Did not invent any of these movement patterns. And of course, as I've said in previous rants, there is no such thing as an autism-specific exercise. That's not a thing. We're talking about human beings with human bodies and human movement, so they're just exercises. And to the previous point, some are going to have a greater effect than others. And the second point here is that just having a program doesn't mean that we're going to automatically meet those needs and have those particular training effects or outcomes, because we have to understand how to implement the exercises. If I just, and this is a Pulp Fiction reference, give somebody a blowtorch and a pair of pliers, those are two tools, but we don't necessarily know how to use them if we are untrained. We bring it back to exercise now, and just because I put squats and overhead presses with a pair of sandbells in a program, does that mean that the end user who's never coached and never been trained and never gone through the Autism Fitness Certification knows what to do with those? Chances are no. So I can write programs all day. By the way, that's why you don't see them for sale on my website, like your autism fitness programs, because it's all about the training and education and practice and mentoring and understanding how to program effectively from a general and then a specific. What is this squat supposed to look like? What is this press supposed to look like? What is this band row supposed to look like? And just as importantly, what happens when it doesn't look like it is supposed to look? When we see compensatory movement in an athlete, do we just let it continue to go? The exercises are not magic. They can have an enormous benefit for any and all athletes who are doing them if they are being done at an appropriate level for that particular individual, that particular athlete. What does that mean? That we need to be educated and trained and understand how to implement those exercises as effectively as possible for each individual. So the third misconception is the misconception of fun. Now, we see this a lot, and so much of this also is what we refer to as the infantilization of the neurodivergent population, where everything has to be fun. And when you look at someone who is really focused in their workout, there's a certain amount of intensity, there is a certain amount of seriousness. Fun is this weird, ethereal kind of thing. Can we define fun? Yeah, absolutely. Enjoyment and engagement in a particular activity. But we have to be really careful around calling something fun. When our athletes are exercising, they are engaged and focused, and it may not look super fun, but afterwards the athlete has a sense of accomplishment and they go back and do it again. So this whole idea of fun it comes from kind of the everything needs to be a super happy party all the time, and I think it's honestly disrespectful to our athletes in not thinking a little more deeply about this and saying, well, they are capable of engaging and focusing and doing something that is challenging, and they'll be fine. They can do it, and they can continue to progress as well. So this whole idea, and the reason I bring this up is I've had many emails start with, how do you make it fun? And you can make it more reinforcing. You can make it more enjoyable. You can pair it with things that the athlete already enjoys so that the exercise itself, if it's neutral or less preferred, takes on a more reinforcing quality. But, the whole notion of silly level fun is different than engagement and consistency. Those are two different things. So it's this mythology around making everything fun. You make it challenging enough and it's not going to be fun, but it's definitely going to be worthwhile, and it's going to help to develop that athlete's resilience as well. And we have to respect our autism and neurodivergent athletes enough to realize that resilience is within their capability, and that's going to mean that we have to provide them with something challenging, which is a little bit philosophical, but it's very, very practical as well. So the fourth common assumption or misconception here is that we need to use a wide array of variety. The super secret, and I put that in very ironic quotes, the super secret method or part of the method of autism fitness is that we're consistent with our exercises, because many of our athletes require a good deal of repetition and consistent practice with an exercise, because they may be significantly detrained or completely untrained, often the case. They may have some motor or stability deficits, very common in both literature and anecdotally. And so in order to overcome those, we need to do a lot of the same. And lo and behold, over time, over the course of 2 or 3 months, or shorter or longer, but somewhere in that curve, all of a sudden, our athletes start developing all of these great motor skills. They can squat better, they can push, they can pull, they're more stable, they're able to go up and down stairs better, able to throw out the garbage better, all of these activities of daily living that they're now initiating. Is it because we had 30 different exercises and then we changed it up the week after, and then we changed it again the week after that because, oh no, they're going to get bored, so now we need to do all these new... No, we stay with the same stuff over and over and over again. We give choice as to what order the athlete wants to do those exercises, and they start getting better at them. So consistency always wins over variety. Are there points at which variety makes sense? Yeah, absolutely. But if we haven't gotten all the juice out of one particular exercise, it doesn't make sense to move on to something more challenging or different just because it's novel. If we're looking at ultimately developing a training effect for that athlete, it's not going to occur out of novelty. It's going to occur out of consistency. So the idea of constantly changing things up doesn't work for the physiological. And if we're looking at things from the PAC profile perspective, that is our standard operating system in autism fitness, physically, consistency is going to develop the skill. Adaptively or motivationally, consistency is going to give the athlete a much greater sense of calm, because you don't have that anxiety provoking everything is going to change constantly, so they understand the expectation. And cognitively, to what I just said, they understand the expectation. So there is a greater awareness of what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be doing it, what the expectation is going to be for performing that exercise, and everything just gets simpler from the perspective of navigating the environment, the exercises, and what is happening first, second, third, fourth, fifth, the order, the sequence, how everything goes. So the idea of variety and let's just, constantly switch things up may seem, novel and fun, but it really isn't. And it doesn't get things done from an exercise perspective, because exercise science, as science, is going to dictate that you need a good amount of consistency in order to progress with strength, stability, motor planning, cardiovascular capability, any of these processes. You need to have a structured plan, right? Particularly when we're talking about our autism and neurodivergent athletes. So those are 4 assumptions, misconceptions that I've heard or been asked many times over the course of a few years. I thought this would be valuable either as a preventative or maybe as an antidote. And if any of this gives you a better consideration or a better grasp of programming for your athletes, let me know in the comments below. Of course, if there's a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Tuesday Training, leave that in the comments below also. I'd love to read it. Would definitely be more than happy, not more than happy, just about happy, to help with any questions that you have. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. If you are ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro, the link is in the description below. You can begin your coursework immediately and then meet me for your virtual or in-person practical held all throughout the year. Definitely do not forget to like and subscribe and even share these videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next week.